While you might think you're in Tampa Bay, you're actually in Cuba, literally. My name is Santiago Carrata, President and CEO of Visit Tampa Bay, and we are standing in Jose Marti Park, located in the historic Latin Quarter of Tampa's Ybor City. This park is special to the Cuban people. The land actually belongs to them. And that's just one example of the deep connection this neighborhood has with Cuba. It helped transform Tampa Bay into Cigar City. And with that, I want to introduce you to my very good friend Andrea Gansmart, whose family runs the Columbia Restaurant, the largest and oldest Spanish restaurant in the country.
My earliest memories of the Columbia Restaurant would be coming here on Saturday evenings and sitting at a dining room table in the Siboney with my grandmother and watching the flamenco dancers dance and watching my grandfather Caesar play his violin. So as a child, the Columbia was something very magical that I don't think I could even grasp truly what it was or appreciate it until I was older. The Columbia Restaurant was founded in 1905 by my great-great-grandfather, Casimiro Hernandez Sr. He immigrated to the United States to pursue his American dream that so many came to Ybor City for. The fact that these walls of this restaurant that now incorporate a whole city block have passed from generation to generation. This very bar that's behind me is the original bar. We have a picture that dates back to the early 1900s with gentlemen standing in front of it, my great-great-grandfather being one of them. And the fact that we have been able to maintain it, to restore it, and share it with so many generations that came after him is truly special. The Columbia, of course, we have seen the Great Depression, we have seen Prohibition. We do have two hideaways that are not functioning right now. They were called Adela's and Caesar's Hideaway. And they would go up there and enjoy their illegal libation. Ybor City, many people say, is like the French Quarter in New Orleans. That's why we refer to ourselves as the Latin Quarter. When you walk down the street, you see so many Ybor City characters. You see men and women alike sitting on the sidewalk smoking the cigars, which is reminiscent of the yesteryears. Many people think that we are solely a Cuban restaurant, when actually my great-great-grandfather came from Spain and spent some time in Cuba, and that is where the Cuban influence comes from. When I look at myself, I am actually so many pieces of what Ybor City is. With my father, I've got the Spanish and the Cuban, and from my mom's side, I've got the Italian and German. I'm basically a walking Cuban sandwich. I never thought about that. I have never thought about that. I am a walking Cuban sandwich. So the Cuban sandwich truly is a representation of those people that came in the early 1900s, the ham being the Spaniards, the pork being the Cubans, and of course the Cuban bread representing the Cubans, the salami being the Italians, the mustard and the pickles representing the Germans, and I say the Swiss cheese is what represents Ybor City as a melting pot because it melts it all together. The ingredients we use at the Columbia Restaurant are the best of the best. We coat our ham with brown sugar and we roast it. We marinate our pork in the classic mojo marinade. It is the best salami imported from Italy. In order to build the best Cuban sandwich, you have to use the best ingredients. My father, Richard, truly believes that a Cuban sandwich has to be built a particular way. You always have to start with your ham. You have to go to your pork, your salami, your Swiss cheese, mustard, and pickles. And the reason for that is the way it hits your palate. And it also has to be layered very evenly, so that way every single bite tastes just like the last. And now we're gonna build the Columbia Restaurant's Cuban sandwich. We're gonna start with our Cuban bread, slice it in half. We use approximately a 9-inch piece, but of course if you're making it at home, you can cut it to whatever size you desire. The first item that goes on is our ham. It is important that you layer it nice and even so each bite tastes exactly the same. I know everybody wants to pile it up and make it deli style. We're not building a deli sandwich, we're building a Cuban sandwich. Now we're gonna add our roasted pork. Once again, another nice even layer of meat. Now our salami. Did you see those beautiful little peppercorns in there? Once again, another nice even layer of meat. And then of course our Swiss cheese, which is gonna melt it all together and make it extra yummy. We take our top piece of the bread and we're going to add a very generous lathering of yellow mustard. It's important that you only put the mustard on the top because if you do it on both, it's gonna be overpowering. Your meat's gonna get lost. And then 2 pickles. Of course, your Cuban sandwich is ready to go right now, but if you want to eat it the way the local Tampa people love it, you've got to brush it with butter and put it in the press. Lather it with a nice thin layer of butter. That way it'll get extra crispy in the press. And now we have to let the press do its magic. So the amount of time you're gonna leave your Cuban sandwich in the press is all gonna depend on how crispy you want it. Here at the Columbia, we like to leave it in for about 5 to 8 minutes. I personally love mine a little bit crispier, so I like to leave it in for 10. Our Cuban sandwich looks like it's crispy enough. The traditional way to cut a Cuban sandwich is diagonally. So that way when you take your first bite, you've got that perfect point that's gonna have every single one of those flavors that you want. And that's a traditional Cuban sandwich from Ybor City.
And now you know the Cuban sandwiches from Tampa, but you really need to try the 1905 salad, one of my personal favorites. As you heard from Andrea, Ybor City is a melting pot of cultures, and each of those cultures left their mark on the city through its cigars, cuisine, and even the chickens that still roam these brick-lined streets.
Every day I come to work, you won't believe it, I have to stop. There's crosswalks, 5 or 6 chickens or roosters walking.
Chickens crossing the street.
They're wild, they don't hurt anybody. I mean, what kind of, this is not 1954, not 1910. This is, 2020. You have wild roosters here just doing their thing.
I always can't help but think, why does the chicken cross the road?
They're nowhere in the country has roosters running around this day and age, but Tampa does.
These Ybor chickens are legally protected now because they are a part of our history. They were brought here by Cuban immigrants when cigar operations moved to Tampa. Eric Newman knows all about this. It's been his family's business for 125 years. Eric, take it away.
You're walking into a time capsule. We're making cigars on the same machines my grandfather brought over here in the 1930s. These aren't replica machines, these are the machines. Tampa's got a great cigar history here. Cigars are to Tampa what wine is to Napa Valley and what Mickey Mouse is to Orlando. This is the cigar city. Cigars are what makes Tampa different. In 1885, Vincent Martinez Ybor brought the cigar industry from Key West to Tampa. At one time, Tampa had 150 cigar factories making cigars. This was indeed the cigar capital of the world. Today, 125 years later, we're the only one of those cigar manufacturers from 1895 that are still around. They're still owned and operated by the family. I'm 3rd generation. My son Drew is fourth generation, we are just torch bearers. I've given the torch actually a baton, like in a relay, to my son Drew. This is our 125th year in business. About 100 of those years have been one challenge after another. Been through the Cuban embargo, smoking bans, excise taxes, FDA regulation. We've had one curveball thrown at us after another. But it's kind of interesting. We were renovating our factory here. About a year ago, we found a secret set of stairs. Stairs went up to the general manager's office. So when he was robbed, he would open the hatch, go down the stairs, take the money, and that's what we're in the process of opening up as part of our tours, a part of the lore, part of the story of this factory. Every cigar factory in Tampa was built between 1905 and 1910, designed the same way. The factory was built so the broad part of the factory faced north, because when the factories were built, there was no electricity. They would used to have natural light to shade cigars, store tobacco, and the truest light was the northern light. But every factory had the same flow today that they had then. Filler department is on the third floor where you mix the middle of the tobacco, the filler. The cigar floor, cigar making area is on the second floor. The first floor is where the shipping is and the offices are, and the basement is where you put moisture into the outside leaf. You go walk down our basement, you have this wonderful aroma of Connecticut broadleaf. And it's a very sweetness to it. And it's been there for over 100 years. The process hasn't changed. Every cigar, whether it's a $1 cigar or a $50 cigar, has three types of tobacco. Inside a cigar is called the filler. This is filler tobacco. It's heavier tobacco, has a lot of aroma. The thick part of the stem is at the lower of the leaf. It's removed by hand. The upper part of the stem stays in the tobacco. Kind of looks like frog legs. This, in the trade, is called frog strip tobacco, or just frogs. Then the binder tobacco is rolled around the filler. This is the binder, Connecticut broadleaf tobacco. The hardest part is putting the filler into the binder. You want to make it firm enough that it's sturdy, but not so hard that it doesn't draw. It's placed in a tray, plastic mold, just like this, where it's put in a press, it gets its form, it develops its shape. Then after an hour to an hour and a half, Louis and Jenny, our rollers, they'll take cigars out of the mold and roll the outside leaf, which is the most expensive part, the most delicate part. Put it downstairs where it's aged for 6 to 9 months. Then it's ready for the customer. This is the real thing, the way it's been done for centuries. These are skilled artisans. It really looks easy. Hitting a tennis ball looks easy. Hitting a golf ball looks easy. It's not. Making a cigar like they're making it looks easy. You go bap, 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 bap. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of labor. So it takes a long time. And so you may imagine you're at least 3 years for the tobacco to get ready, where it can become a cigar, then another 6, 9 months of aging. We're talking about 4 years. It's crazy. Why would anybody do that? That's what it takes to make a great cigar. We make great cigars here.
Thanks for exploring Ybor City with me today. Ybor City is just a small slice of what Tampa Bay has to offer, but it's an important one, rooted in culture, history, and great culinary experiences. It helped make Tampa what it is today, filled with world-class attractions, a colorful culinary culture, and a bustling downtown riverfront. I hope you enjoy that cigar, and hey, don't be afraid to put your Cuban sandwich making skills to a test at home. We hope to see you in Tampa Bay real soon.